Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Up the Ladder. My name's Nate Stein, joining you with SPKN as always. And today I got with me Chuck Walton. Chuck's a guy who I could probably spend the entirety of this episode talking about just the things that he's done on this intro, but I'll try to keep it brief. Started at Howard University, parlayed some of his positions and work there with the university into roles with BET, ESPN, the NFL Network, the Washington Redskins. It goes on and on. I'll let him tell you all about it, though. Chuck, thank you for joining Up the Ladder.
No, Nate, thank you guys for having me. Shout out to Meg, and I'm blessed and fortunate to be here.
Well, I really want to start at the beginning. I know you did some work through the journalism program or through with the teams at Howard and kind of
Yeah,
parlayed that working with student reporters from other schools. I would love to hear a little bit about that story from your mouth.
yeah, no. So I was fortunate enough. I told the story. I'm actually out here in beautiful Denver, Colorado, filming a TV show this week. But I was telling somebody last night. Howard University, we lack a lot of the resources and tools that some of the larger universities have, and so I was able to get an opportunity to become the voice of the school, where we were able to broadcast a lot of the sports, games and events around campus. And so, being that we're a sports team, we got to travel to different schools throughout the MEAC conference. And so, I'm always a hustler. I'm always thinking how I can get to the next level or help the people around me get to the next level. So I noticed that when I would travel to Morgan State or Coppin State, Delaware State, these different schools, I would notice they would have these young journalist students kind of like at the scoreboard and stuff. And so I figured, I was like, hey, I'm pretty connected. And I felt like if I was able to make a connection with one person that was maybe the head of like the journalism department at each school, that they could work not for me, but with me. And we would be able to get like credentials to these award shows or like local games in that area, which I think would make us all better as journalists, but also it gives us a chance to contribute to a website that we all can say that is ours. And so we put it on our resume, and it just makes us look much bigger, than we are, kind of each one teach one type situation. So I was able to create a website that I named Elite Insiders, because I thought we were all elite people, and we were getting the inside scoop. And so, it went down. I was able to go to pretty much every HBCU you can name. I found at least one or two people at each school. They all started contributing to my website. And I was able to get credentials to, like the American Music Awards, the BET Awards, the ESPYs. So that was my first taste of even getting out to LA, was through my own platform. And I'm super grateful for every last student that was my peer that helped me, because we got a network across, and that's what it's all about. And it opened up a lot of doors for me and several of my counterparts. A lot of those people went on to work for CNN and just all these wonderful companies and things like that. So yeah, that's what that was all about.
That's amazing. The connections that you can build if you just put some time into it in this industry are phenomenal. And obviously, it took you some pretty cool places, including being the voice of the Golden State Warriors, or a couple of those
Yeah,
championship teams. Talk me
yeah,
through a little bit of the journey that took you there beyond Howard and to the Warriors,
yeah,
and kind of when you knew that this was something that you could do full time and could pursue, but really
yeah.
that you wanted to do it and had the drive to do it.
Well, I knew when I was probably like 6 months old that I was different. I talked to the good Lord about it. He said, Chuck, you're different. And I said, I know, and we're going to go on this journey together. But I always wanted to be in sports. I was an athlete. I played ball in high school. I didn't get blessed with LeBron James's size or Tom Brady's arms, so, my career, stopped there. But my dad always told me I could go pro in life. And so that's when I figured, like, okay, I'll go to Howard. They got me into the broadcasting, and I always grew up idolizing Stuart Scott, the late great Stuart Scott, who I was fortunate enough to meet, and was somewhat of a mentor to me in his latter years. May he rest in peace. And so basically, I was like, man, I want to be on TV. I want to work for ESPN. So I actually got a job with ESPN 980 in DC. But they hired me as a board operator because it was an internship. About a week into the job, my boss pulled me into the back room and was like, hey, do you want to work here full time? But I still was in class, and so they worked out a situation where I basically became full time, but I was able to work around my school schedule. And I would tell my boss every day, Chuck Sapienza, I was like, hey, I'm an on-air talent, and he would just tell me to go back to work, kid. And then one day I got an opportunity to write an op-ed piece for CNN. And I later on appeared on CNN with Don Lemon and Poppy Harlow in the primetime slot. So after that, my boss emailed me that night and was like, hey, come into the office early. And so I came in, and he goes, how come you didn't tell me that you did on-air work? And I was like, I've been telling you this every day. Like, what do you mean? So, but he was super dope. He was like, yo, "Hey, if you're ready, I'll put you on air this weekend." And he did, and I was able to get my voice out there as a Sports Center update anchor, and then that led to just the phone never stopped ringing. So I got an opportunity to. It's actually a crazy story. So I actually interviewed with the San Francisco Giants um, for a role, and I met with three people. And the second person I met with, his name's Paul Hodges, and he was like just staring at me, and he was just like, "Yo, man," he's like, "I really love what you've built with Elite Insiders." So that he couldn't believe that I had my own podcast that we created amongst the students, and it was successful. So that's what I created it for, because we help each other. And so he asked me to do lunch with them after my interviews. I couldn't because I had to fly back to work for ESPN in DC. And I remember thinking on the plane, like, man, did I just blow like this major opportunity? Fast forward, the guy calls me. He goes, "I got good news and bad news." I said, "Give me the bad news." He said, "I'm not with the Giants anymore." So in my head, I'm like, "Why are you calling me?" He said, "I just signed with the Golden State Warriors to help them build this new stadium and build out their like game day entertainment department. And I'm the head of it. And I want to bring you over there to help me run it." Phone goes dry for a couple months. I'm thinking like, this guy was just talking. He calls me, I think the night after the home opener, and I think they lost. And apparently, the ownership team is very superstitious, and they want to be very cultural to the Bay Area. So, I'm a kid who also grew up in the Bay. That's like my second home. So they offered me a chance to just do like a one-time voiceover opportunity for the game. And so I sent them the video, and they called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come see it in person?" So I guess I can admit this now. I lied to my boss at the time where I was working. It was a very, very big company, and I flew to Oakland. They were playing the Lakers. My favorite basketball player ever is Kobe Bryant, and we beat the Lakers. I got to get down. I didn't get to meet Kobe, but they took me as close as I could get. And then we lost the next game. They didn't use me. They called me back, said they wanted to keep everything the same, from the water boy on down to everybody. And so they contracted me out for one season. And little did I know that one season we would win the NBA championship. Um, and then they ended up bringing me back. And so I was fortunate to work with Franco Finn, um, Ari Glick, Michael Leslie, Paul Hodges. Just super grateful to the entire team and the journey that we went on. And it's literally the greatest ride of my life.
Oh my God. It is taking everything in me not to just completely derail this entire show, just to talk about that season and talk about every little moment. But you did cover something that I find pretty fun that I think is pretty unique to sports as well. You mentioned the superstition with the ownership group and the fact that they brought you on for one game, they won that game. Then the other two games that season, it sounds like that you didn't work. They're the two of the
Yeah,
losses.
yeah,
And
yeah. I
yeah.
remember vividly. I think the Spurs dubbed us. I think we got beat by like 22, and they literally called me and they're like, "Hey, we'll bring you on for the season." And I was like, "Wow, it was the coolest thing." And like I said, I grew up in Oakland and Chicago. Spent a lot of time. My dad would take us to the Warriors games when they were nothing. So I remember playing the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. And I was like, "There's no way we're gonna win the game." And I remember when we won, I was still in shock. Like, wow, the Warriors are in the NBA Finals. It was just the craziest thing. And now they're the biggest brand in basketball.
Yeah,
Crazy.
truly. So, talk me through an average day in your role with the Warriors. I want to actually say non-game day because I feel like everybody can kind of get an idea of what it looks like on game day. Obviously, you have all your
Yeah,
prep and then the game
yeah,
itself. But on those off days, or maybe days where the Warriors are traveling, or it's a game that you're not doing, I'm curious.
yeah, yeah. So mainly, they use me obviously for most of the home games because on the road games, unless we were in the playoffs, then I got to do some road stuff because like wanted to do like a video or some type of audio situation for each game. But my average day would just be starting to conceptualize what the theme would be. So each game we want to bring different energy to what the theme would be, and also writing my scripts, stuff like that, and just making sure that I was vocally better. The next game, or like that I cleaned up something I might have said wrong or wanted to say different, and just really try and galvanize the fan base. So that was really the focus, man, was just figuring out where we wanted to go. Just also working with the audio team, making sure we had some cool, like, background music and things like that. Because obviously, if you've been to the Bay or you know anybody from the Bay, they create culture, and they create music, and getting hyphy and going dumb. And just it's a whole type of experience. So yeah, my off day was just really just trying to stay ahead of the curve so that people continue to be pleased with my work.
What would you say is the most important thing that you've learned on the job that's helped you be successful?
The most important thing, well, that no one person is bigger than the team, because
Mm.
I wouldn't have been able to execute everything that I did without Ari Glick, who's the creative director of the team, who took time to edit all of my stuff. Michael Leslie, who every time I called him would literally work with me countless hours to make sure that I was sounding perfect. And then also my younger brother Marcus. It became a family affair. I was very busy at the time with a lot of extra endeavors. Being overbooked, and so the Warriors are actually gracious enough to bring my brother on and pay him as well. He ended up writing a lot of my scripts for me, so it was an honor to be able to work with my younger brother, which was always a dream. So yeah, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that you can't do it alone, and it's okay to clap for others, because we win together.
I love what you just said about being okay to clap for others. That's such a big thing. It's so easy to look at yourself and even other people in your own organization or your own office say, like, oh, well, how can I be better than them so that I get recognition XYZ or so that I get whatever reward that it is.
For
Get
sure.
clapping for learning how to clap for everybody else and just be happy when it's team success and being able to take some ownership in that. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm all about the team. I mean, that's just as Meg will tell you, man. It's like without my team, I'm nothing.
I love that. So yeah, we're gonna start to wrap things up a little bit. I want to do a couple fun questions.
Okay.
So what is a moment or a situation that you found yourself in at work, and you can go as far back into any of your roles as you want to for this one,
Okay.
that nobody would believe, and you wouldn't even believe if you didn't experience it firsthand. And this can be like as outrageous as weird. It doesn't have to be anything that you learned a lesson from. It can just be fun.
Um, I told the story last night. So my favorite athlete ever is Michael Vick. And so I was able to Tony Romo has a fantasy sports convention that he does, and I was the partner. I'm still the partnership director for it, and so I was able to book Michael Vick to come one year, and I was super excited because I was like, wow, I'm about to meet like my football hero, and so I ended up meeting Vick, got to pay him some money, which is also great. And then fast forward, I booked him for a couple other things, and he ended up telling me that he would come to my 30th birthday party in LA. And I really didn't believe it. And long story short, we're at my 30th birthday party at the Broadway bar downtown. And lo and behold, my whole family's there. Yeah, I mean, literally, like the whole LA came out for me, man. Like celebs, you name it. And all I know is Michael Vick walked into my 30th birthday party, and I felt like I was like a 3-year-old child. I just like the tears just couldn't stop, and I just was super grateful because growing up, I always believed in manifesting life, and I just couldn't believe that I manifested not only like meeting my favorite player, but striking up a friendship and him actually being gracious enough to come, share a special moment in my life that I'll remember forever.
That's so cool. I love that. I love stories like that. I mean, obviously had such a huge impact on you, and it's
For
something that
sure,
he very clearly didn't have to do. I mean, he can
for
kind of
sure.
do whatever he wants with his life at this point.
Yeah,
So that
for
says a
sure,
good bit about him as well.
for sure.
All right, so finally, this one we'll finish up with a coach story. It's something that we do on every episode of every
Okay.
show on SPKN, and it's something that has more of a lesson behind it, an interaction that you've had with a coach when you were an athlete, or
Yeah,
with a coach when you were in media, that
yeah,
kind of stuck with you and left an impression. And this could be positive or negative.
for sure. My high school football coach, his name was Jim Steele. So shout out to Coach Steele. But he used to always tell us, like every day, he would say, excuses are the nails that build the house of failure. So don't make them. So I try not to make excuses, try to hold myself accountable. I hope that the people that love me hold me accountable because, I'm not perfect, but I think that we are striving for greatness. And so I think that's the greatest lesson that I learned is that, don't make excuses. If you make a mistake, apologize for it, dust yourself off, and go get them the next time. So that's what I'm all about.
Mm, I like that. I like the I like picturing or saying that making excuses like building a house of failure. It's a little bit
Yeah,
better to say than some of the other excuse related kind of tropes that are out there.
for
But
for sure,
yeah,
for sure, for sure.
that's a good one to stick with, and that's a great one to end with. Chuck, once again, cannot thank you enough for taking some time out of your day to join us today on Up the Ladder.
Oh no, I love the show. I'm gonna keep supporting you guys. God bless you, Nate and Meg. I really appreciate you. God bless you as well. And you guys have a happy holiday season.